Hi, this is the walkthrough to my track Midnight Octopus for the Loop Up Superbooth contest. I'm going to talk you through how I made the track. I used pretty much exclusively the Octatrack, but also the iPad to play some samples polyphonically, which I recorded into the Octatrack. And then I performed it live and recorded it straight into my mixer. So let's have a look. So I made use of the sample chains prepared by Lying Dalai, which is very convenient. Enabled me to get started very quickly. You can see here that looking at the sample list, the static sample list, you can see here the sample chains for each of the instruments loaded up. On track 1, which is the main bass line that you can hear through the song, I actually recorded that one in live from the iPad. I'll show you how I did that later on. So again, I just loaded the samples into audio layer on the iPad and just played them in with my MIDI keyboard and use the recording functions on the sampling functions on the Octatrack to do that. Okay, so if you look at the main pattern here, this is the bass line. Simple line that goes through most of the song. On track 1, that's where we've got the sample playing, and we've got some effects there. A filter with just to make it sit in the mix a bit better, and a small amount of delay on that one. Track 2 is a neighbor track, so you can get some extra effects in there. First of all, chorus, which you can see I've got the mix right up on that, and that's what gives it that kind of slightly tinny metallic sound, I guess, and a little bit of width. Not too much, being the bass line. Don't want it to take over. And I've got spring reverb on that, which I think is probably key to the sound that I've got going on that track. The next track. It's our simple hi-hat line, which again goes through most of the song. Most of the tracks go through most of the song. So that's from the 606 emulation. As you can see there, most of it. I think there's maybe a couple of sounds from the Zaps. And again on the effects there, we've got some filtering, quite a bit of distortion, but I cut off the highs on the filter, as you can see, so it doesn't sound too distorted. There's not too much high end, and some delay with no feedback, just to give it a bit of extra rhythm. The next track is our main kick track. Let's listen to that. Alright, so what's going on there? We use the start parameter here to select the sample. So you can see that's sample 3, which is the sample that's used through most of it. And then obviously I've got some parameter locks here, some sample locks. We're using a Zaps there for the long sound. And on the others we've got another kick drum sound, often played at a lower volume as well, just to give it a bit of groove. Hearing that with the hi-hat. So you can see that also, on these ones, I've got quite a bit of micro timing on a lot of them, just to give it that groove. I actually had quite a bit on an earlier version that I was doing that really swayed the beat quite a lot, including on the down beats. But I pulled it back in the end to get a bit more of a straight ahead groove. The next track is the snare sound, I guess you would call it, which is from Percons, which just sounds like a great sounding machine. I've definitely got a bit of gear lust there. So yeah, this is an interesting one, I guess. Not too complicated, but I think it's key to a lot of the sound of the track. Yeah, so you can see it's mainly use of the filter there, and you also heard there that the sort of deep sub bass kick that comes in at the beginning of every 4 bars is actually on the snare track, and that's because I had the other kick. Still wanted to keep the other kick and the slide in on the kick drum track. That's how I made it in the moment. There might be a better way, but that's just how it came together. So if we look at the effects here, you can see again I've got quite a bit of distortion on the filter. I really like the distortion on the filter, and I use that a lot more than I use the lo-fi effect. Also because the filter in general is very useful and sounds pretty good. And again, I've got some spring reverb on this, and that's pretty key to the sound. So I use the LFOs here. So you can see I've got the first one. I've got the first LFO on a square wave that's hitting the time parameter on the spring reverb, and so bringing in reverb. Every now and then it's quite fast, as you can see, that LFO. The second one I've got here, just a filter modulation, filter cutoff. And the third one I've got, this is on the speed of the filter LFO. Okay, so this is a random. And so it randomly changes the speed with which the filter cutoff is being changed by the second LFO. So let's listen to that again. And again, because these LFOs run free, that gives quite a bit of variation through the track. It's not always the same, and so that whooshing sound that you can hear there comes from what's going on there with the interaction between the filters and the spring and so on. It's a cool sound. Just going back to the kick drum, I didn't show you the effects there. So you can see on the kick drum, again, just showing you that I've got quite a bit of distortion on the kick. But again, using the filter to take off some of the high frequencies there that you would get through the drive. The next track here, track 6, this uses a couple of the samples that I think were the Heinbach texture recordings, I think. I'm not sure. So this is the sample chain of the textures, and I use 2 of those samples, I think. So if we look, the first one here, slice 10 and slice 11. So listening to that, This is a sample that lots of people used, I think, in their tracks, and it's a great sound. And the second one, you can just hear the vocal sample coming in now and then. It's quite subtle. And again, the main effects here are filter sweeping through the LFOs. And panning as well on LFO 3, you can see there. And again, I'm using the, here I'm modulating the filter bass. So getting it's kind of bandpass effect really, because the low pass is on as well. And using the second LFO to modulate the speed of LFO 1 again. Okay, quite a bit, you can see the depth there. And that gives quite a bit of movement to the sound, I think, and that that sample runs through most of it and gives the track a kind of spacey vibe that kind of gels with the funky bass line. Quite well, I think. So the track 7 here. Track 7 is where I put most of the synth lines that I recorded from the iPad. So apart from the bass line, so most of those synth lines that you hear through the track that give it the variation, because everything else remains pretty constant, maybe a little bit too constant. But yeah, the variation is given by those synth lines, which I recorded from different instruments, different samples from the iPad. So on the main sort of fallback pattern, I guess, which is this one, we're using the Waldorf here. So what I've done is, when I've recorded these, this is a flex track, but it could be a static track. I don't really make use of the flex capabilities there, but so here what I've done is named the recordings when I've been saving them to the sample list. I've named them after the sample that was used. So this one you can see here, Waldorf M24 sample, and 01 means that's the first take of that sample line that I recorded. Some of them I recorded, others and whatnot. Or just in case I recorded others, really. Yeah, there's one. So let's listen to that. So yeah, that's the first synth line that comes in after the intro. And I'll show you in a minute what happens, but what I've done is set up some different parts. So this track uses part 1. This pattern uses part 1. Other patterns use, the other parts. And so I swap over the sample here using the different parts. You could just, use a pattern and a sample lock, but I've used parts here. And that's also enabled me to tailor the effects to the different synth lines. And when I'm performing it live, using the slider here. So track 8 is the master. And here I've got a filter, which I use quite a bit in the, in the scenes and the slider as a performance effect. There's also a delay, which I don't think I use. I think I maybe use it on 1 or 2 of the scenes. Let's run through the track, maybe just a few of the pattern changes, and you can see how the parts change and how the synth lines change here on track 7. There's also another pattern, I think it's pattern 3, where this track here, track 6, doesn't play the that ambient texture sample anymore, but plays the same sample as track 7, and but with different effect settings. We'll maybe stop and listen to that when the time comes. Right. So using the scenes here, you can see I've got 3 scenes set up for this part 4, and this scene 9, affects the volume of this texture sample here, track 6, and some of the filter settings as well. The main line here. So here, while I was performing the track, again using the scenes here, scene 11 uses the filter on the master and a bit of delay. Scene 10 usually takes out some of the tracks, including the drums. I use that quite a bit as a transition effect. Moving into pattern 2, you hear the first synth line there. You see I've changed to part 2 here, and the sample on track 7 has changed. It's another Waldorf sample, but a different one. The synth line that comes in the end, which gives it. I really like this synth line. Gives it a nice kind of spacey vibe. Probably if I record it again, I'd maybe record a longer line. That time went longer than the 4 bars, but this was how it ended up at the time. And at the end of the track, I used the scene to transition into the end as well, cutting out the you can see here that I've used that to cut out the volume of some of those tracks, and with a bit of filter and so on the master. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a terribly complex project on the Octatrack, but makes use of some of those performance features, and I really like playing and recording tracks live, and getting away from the computer, and and using hardware as an instrument, and that's why I record the main synth lines in live as well. I'm a keyboardist, play keyboard in bands and so on. So to me, that's an essential part of what makes music interesting and attractive for me. So let's have a look at how I did that. All right, so here you can see on the iPad I've got audio layer set up, which is a great sample player for iPad. I find the iPad really convenient and useful for many things. I use it as a sequencer with Fugue Machine, some other apps. I've just started using audio layer as a sampler. For those polyphonic samples that can be difficult on the Octatrack, and to avoid using the computer or laptop, really, I think it's great. So I've just got it hooked up through the interface here, and audio out, which goes into the Octatrack in input C and D here. You can see here I've got the direct up on the mixer just so you can hear the audio layer. But yeah, when I recorded the lines into the Octatrack, I used a through track on that. But you don't have to do it that way. So here you can see, I've just loaded all the samples in again from most of the sample packs on the synth machines here, and the Buchla one, which I recorded the bass line in. Here I've got the first synth line that you hear in the track on that track 7. That's without the effects on the Octatrack. So I just use the effects on the Octatrack really. Here all I've got happening is a bit of a delayed LFO on the pitch, just to give it a bit of that warble. Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks so much to Loopop for putting the competition on. Amazing, and great to see so many fantastic tracks being made for it, and good luck everybody who entered.